folks. Sorry, we just got a bit of technical drama going on here in Angaston. The old pedal Wi-Fi is not revved up and running, but hopefully this is now beaming out to the world. Welcome to the 4th episode of What Was I Drinking? Kate's got a little bit of drama at the minute. She's got audio but no visual. So unfortunately, it may very well be just my talking head for a bit. So as we do each week, we're going to feature a wine that we like a lot. Tonight we've got Travis Earth from over the western side of the valley. Alter Ego Travis O'Callaghan, the 2016 Mataro Shiraz. And this is from Krondorf Road. So it's from a little vineyard up in the southern end of the valley, and just down the road from where one of the original Silesian villages called Krondorf was. So that's what we're actually looking at tonight. I've matched it up with some homemade spaghetti and polpette. Had a few people dial in and let me know that they quite like the Italian accent. You should see what the Italians say about my Italian accent. It's very bad. So
I don't believe that, Jane.
So I'm going to start with where was I drinking, and tonight I want to go to the west coast of Scotland. I want to jump on the ferry and go over to the Isle of Islay. The Isle of Islay is legendary for being the home of some of the greatest peated whiskies, single malt whiskies in Scotland. And I've become a massive fan of the distillery that goes fairly light on with peat, and that's Bunnahabhain. And Bunnahabhain uses the Master Mariner as their logo, and they're at the top end of the island. They're the first beacon that you see when you're coming over from Kennacraig on the west coast of Ireland. And apart from the two most recent distilleries that have been put on the island, all the ones that are over 100 years old are all around the coastline. And you always hear that Islay is the home of peat, smoke, seaweed and salt. And that's because all of the maturation cellars are right next to the water, because they had to ship in the coal to run the boilers, to run the steam, to do the distillation on ships, and they had to take the whiskey out in barrel from the docks. So tonight's where was I drinking? At Bunnahabhain on the north coast of the Isle of Islay, just off, about 3 hours steaming time on the ferry, on the Calmac ferry from Kennacraig. So if you get a chance, they're doing some really spooky things. Okay, are you there, Kate?
Yes, I am.
Did you want to have a chat about Mataro?
Yes. It's so weird not being able to see me. That just sounds weird, doesn't it?
Well, you know, this happens on American television all the time with those anchormen. They just have to
make do.
Be creative.
We've just got to make do. And, you know, I was really annoyed because I did my hair and everything for tonight, even put some lippy on. So you're really missing out, everyone. Super sorry about that. So tonight we're doing a Mataro Shiraz blend, which for those of you who don't know, Mataro is it has goes by a few names. In France, it's Mourvèdre, and in Spain, in Monastrell, as Monastrell, and sort of California and Australia really coined the phrase of Mataro. And it's often used as a blending wine with sort of Shiraz and Grenache primarily. So you'll often see it as labelled as the GSM, so Grenache Shiraz Mataro or Grenache Shiraz Mourvèdre. We don't ever really call it Monastrell here in Australia. Jane, have you ever seen anyone do that?
Only the wine wankers.
Only the wine. So there you go. If you've heard it here first, if you see that on a label. But yeah, typically used as a blend, and it does that really well. But what is really exciting is that we're seeing them more and more as single varietals and as sort of duos, like with this one, which is a Grenache Shiraz, Mataro Shiraz blend, which is, you know, it's pretty exciting to be able to deliver those sort of wines. And in this instance, this is a 75% Mataro balance in Shiraz. So it's nice seeing it, you know, in the forefront of the blend. But yeah, so do you want to give us your thoughts on the
Sure.
style and wine, Joe?
I go back a long way with Travis. Hey, I just want to put you in the picture. I go back a long way with Travis. He's got he's got his saying, refusing to be beige since 1973.
Oh, I love it. I saw that on his website and I just loved it.
And I first met him he's about a 20-year-old young lad. I used to work for his father, Rob O'Callaghan, out at Rockford, 93, 94, 95, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And which is on Krondorf Road, along with Charlie Melton, directly over the way. But the really nice thing is that just up the road from in between Rockford and Krondorf, the old village at the top of the hill, there's an old dairy there now, and a tiny little hook turn on a dirt road that in springtime just fills with huge white lilies. It's just one of the nicest spots in the valley. Anyway, halfway between Rockford and Krondorf, there's a beautiful old property that used to be the Henschke winemaking family property before they went up into Cainton there.
That was the initial house, right?
Yeah, and Rob and Pam bought that property, and it's one of the classic Silesian settler properties, because you've got the house right next to the road. Then behind that, the veggies. Behind that, the chooks. Behind that, the pigs. Then the creek. Then the orchards. And they've got an heirloom orchard there, and they've brought it back to production. They use all the produce at Rockford when they do their special lunches there in the old dining room.
Yeah, right.
And there's a block of Grenache Shiraz Mataro behind there that they've brought back. Plus, they've added to with selections of old vineyards around the valley, special stuff. And this Shiraz and Mataro comes from just that vineyard. That vineyard only goes to the family, only goes to Rob and Rockford, Travis, and sometimes what Tim's doing. But that's where this comes from, and that's why he's called it Krondorf, because it really, it's not a proper, it's not a proper formal sub-region of the Barossa, but the valley's pretty much got 13 sub-regions by soil, and Krondorf is actually one that we all refer to, a bit like the Hopper, bit like White Pass, the Sandbank,
Yeah, and I guess for those who know, it's a really nice geographical reference point. They can understand where it is and understand the nature of that region, I suppose, which is really cool. So the Mataro and the Shiraz are both from that one vineyard, and there's also Grenache there.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I like this one because it's you pop your nose over the glass and you get that really, sometimes it's like when you walk past an open fermenter halfway through vintage. Yeah. It smells sweet, Yeah. It gives you that lovely, almost like rhubarb when you're stewing rhubarb, and mulberries, even when you're picking mulberries. It gives you that really lovely sweet fruit nose. Yeah. And it gives you, and Mataro's a funny one, it's got no matter what the sweetness is, it always gives you a fairly powerful oomph factor as well. But with this one, it's got that lovely meat in the middle with Shiraz, where the luscious softness of Shiraz kind of takes the edge off that oomph factor. It's kind of like taking a Torana and sticking really big fat tires on it. It shouldn't work, but it does, and I quite like it. Anyone that's not as old as us probably doesn't know what a Torana is, but Google that, you'll understand.
Google that. Do yourself a favour, Google that. Yeah. I love that. The fruit at the beginning on the nose, really beautiful. And then I agree, and I guess that's the typical of the Mataro with those really soft tannins too, is really lovely throughout the wine altogether.
Mataro is not generally a pretty variety, but when it dances with Shiraz, it's the berry factor.
And it'll be interesting. We'll talk to Trav hopefully in a minute, but asking why the percentages. So why is it always 75% Mataro and then balance of Shiraz, and does it vary depending on vintage? I'll be interested to hear his thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's you know, it's made in a traditional, and it's a really cool time for us here in the Valley, because traditional, old school, rustic, bedrock, homespun, handed down heritage are not dirty words. You know, it's kind of, it's okay to have open fermenters and to plunge and to take some time. You know,
Yeah.
it's right. It's really right up his alley. Hey, before you zoom him in,
Yeah.
can I just show the meat match for tonight?
Oh my gosh, please.
Right. So
people are loving our food sponsor. So good.
I went and saw our meat sponsor. I nearly lost my
ball.
I went and saw my meat sponsor, Pete and Steve, down at Barossa Smokehouse Butchers, and I said, I want to make polpetta. I want to make meatballs. Can you do me 250 grams of pork and 250 grams of beef? And Pete minced the pork loin there for me.
Good on him.
And what I've done, because the meatball probably started in Persia with leftover meat rolled together, and they call it kofta.
Yeah.
But and they reckon that it came to Asia through the Middle East, and then Venetian traders brought it to Italy. The thing is, spaghetti and meatballs is one of those Americanization things. And if you're in Italy, polpette are really quite small.
Yeah.
I made 40 20-cent piece size little tiny meatballs out of 500 grams. And the whole idea is to eat them like meat popcorn.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, oftentimes you'll find that the Italians will put in suppressor or cacciatore salami, or copper ham, or prosciutto. And if you've got a home cook who's really tricky, a little cube of smoked cheese inside the meatball, and they eat them just as a snack without sauce. But when I was in America one time, worked at Atlantic City in New Jersey, and there's a place called the White House Sub Shop, which has been there since 1946, Italian owners. They've got Frank Sinatra's towel from his last performance at the Sands up in a Perspex box behind the cash register.
All that nice old sweat and everything. Gorgeous.
Authentico. And they are a submarine shop. So they get like thousands of fresh, crusty, long baguette rolls, and they stuff them with meatballs and sauce and huge amounts of cheese, Parmesan. And I put the recipe up on Facebook, but I didn't say that the secret ingredients was a couple of teaspoons of brown sugar in the tomato sauce to take the edge off the tomato. And I used Warrnambool cheddar, finely grated cheese in the meatballs. Yeah.
Do you not put all of the recipe up so people had to listen to us to get the rest of the recipe, or did you just forget?
Correct. Okay, so that's the.
How do they taste? I reckon they'd go pretty well with this wine.
That's it, and just loves the wine. Oh,
I think it would.
Sensational.
Speaking of wine, sorry.
I'm not much of a one for blowing my own trumpet, but these meatballs are truly magic.
That's great. Well, shall we see if Trav can join us?
Please zoom him in.
All right, let's see. Yeah, well, we've got a name. That's good.
Trav, take your microphone off.
Unmute.
There he is.
Show us your pretty face. There you are. Yay!
Yes.
Did it.
That's all the way from the western side of the BV.
That's it, on the other side of the world.
Oh, so nice to see you. I'm sorry you can't see me. I did my hair and everything.
Ah, well, I got to see you this morning. So
that's true. That's true. We had a test run.
My good news for the day, so.
Ah, that's great. Hey, great wine. Thanks so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I must admit, it's my kind of emotional favourite, I suppose. You know, because as Jane said, it's you know, Dad and Pam's block, I should say. So Pam's block.
Yes, of course.
And yeah, I've dedicated to my stepmum, so Pam 2.0, so Mum 2.0 Pam. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm glad you like it basically.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I'm a bit like Jane. I'm not overly big on compliments or blowing my own trumpet. So
Oh, good. So I'll keep going then. You're amazing.
Great.
But one of the questions we do have that's come through is, and I was interested to know this too, is the blend, the Mataro Shiraz. Obviously, it's coming off one single block, so there are constraints on how much you can make. But does it vary every year around how much Mataro versus how much Shiraz, and what sort of
no, I try and be honest with you. I try and keep it to that sort of 75 Mataro blend.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One, it's sort of, be honest with you, I might shift, 2 or 3% and all sort of stuff.
Right.
But I want it to be Mataro forward because I love Mataro. And secondly, that's all that Dad would give me. Basically, so.
In a nutshell,
keeping the best Shiraz for
yeah. No, every year I have to do a bit of a emotional fight with the guys at Rockford to get my 2 ton. So
nice.
But even like this year I only got 1 ton, so because of such a small vintage. But I think just over the years it's just that volume, 75. 25%'s worked. The Shiraz goes into Old American, which is horrendously untrendy.
Right, I wondered the oak. I couldn't pick that up. That's really interesting. Okay.
Well, I use really old American oak, always local AP Johns, but they're old, so they're not
overt.
They're not pushing a huge amount of oak flavours there.
Yeah.
It's just they tend to add a little bit of extra sweetness to the back palate and a little bit to the mid palate. Without sort of like steamrolling over the sort of the delicate savoury edge of the Mataro, basically. So,
hey, go on.
No, you go, Joe.
Hey, Trav, with only 1 ton, is this open fermenter, heading boards, plunged?
It's all open fermentation. So I do basically with all my ferments, they're open fermentation, basket press. Otherwise I'd get kicked out of the family. So I pump over. I don't use heading boards. I'm a big fan of getting air into the ferment. I mean, obviously that's what Dad taught me. That's what Ren's taught me. And I find it really sort of pulls out both the fruit characters, blows off the stinky aromatics from sort of inefficient yeasts. But also depending on how warm your ferments are at different times, it also brings out those savoury edges. So so they're just, and all the fermenters are just sort of 1 ton jobs. I mean, most small winemakers my size, just have the 1 ton or 1,000 litre fermenters.
Yeah, that's so nice, isn't it?
Basically little round plastic jobbies. They'll shift around on pallets. My winery, which to be honest with you, I learned from my brother, was everything's movable in the winery. So, even my tanks, I can shift them around. It just makes it easier. So then, to minimise having to, chill ferments or anything like that, I can just shift them in and outside and move them around the place. And if they're going a bit slow, I'll stick them out in the sun, or if they're going a bit hot, chuck them in the shed. So.
That's handy.
Yeah, I mean, being the size I am, I'm lucky because I get to actually feel and touch the whole process. So I can actually, I haven't got 20,000 tons of fruit to look after. So each little parcel,
you can babysit.
I can actually go, okay, that, and I can really micromanage it basically.
Yeah.
So
And I guess that's the family philosophy, isn't it? It was, refusing to go. Keeping it handcrafted and those traditional winemaking techniques. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's good thing.
You kind of look back in sort of the back to the 90s, and it was called traditional winemaking then, and still is. And it sort of got over marketed by the natural wine movement, which people obviously always go, "Oh, you're a natural winemaker." So. Well, yeah, we kind of all are, but what do you mean why? So, Travis Earth. And I say, oh, shit, I keep forgetting that. But Earth's actually my middle name. So Dad gave me a cool middle name. So
Is your middle name Earth?
yeah.
I did not know that. That is wicked.
Yeah, born in 1973. Work it out yourself.
It's a hippie
Your middle
leftover.
name is Earth. That is
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. So so that whole traditional edge. I mean, it's the wines I grew up with, and I think, for me, they're the ones I like drinking. I mean, I don't.
Awesome.
Again, I'm making crushing 10 tons a year or something. So I get to make exactly what I like drinking, and fortunately, people like it, and I haven't killed anyone yet. So. And
2016, Trav.
Yeah.
This is the first 2016 wine we've had on the show.
Oh, okay.
I really like the fruit weight.
Yeah, me too. It was a good vintage. It wasn't a crap vintage. Real terms, we don't really have many crap vintages. It was a pretty, it was a nice, warm vintage, reasonably cool, not too dry, not too wet. So, especially with, Mataro is a funny thing. I mean, like everything, every plant likes water, but if you give it too much, it just goes, lollipoppy really quickly, like Grenache does.
Gets wet feet.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
So, Mataro is my sort of personal favourite grape variety. I mean, growing up, at Rockford and seeing those growers' day when all the wines from 3 or 4 different vintages are all out on the bench to show the producers, what's going on with their grapes. I mean, I love Shiraz, of course I love Shiraz, but I always found Mataro the most interesting. Grenache, not so much for me. I respect it, but I don't love it. I think Mataro is so incredibly temperamental. It's biannual as well, so one year it's a decent crop, next year it's shit. So it keeps me on my feet, and keeps me interested. So
and tends to if you catch the fruit in vintage, it tends to hold it.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, so it's definitely it's one of the I always look at it's like it's better to pick it a little bit riper than too early, because it's one of those varieties. He's quite tough. It likes the heat. It's got pretty thick skins. It doesn't fall apart as quickly as Grenache does. And when I say ripe, I'm not talking 90s super ripeness. But it's always somewhere between 14 and 15 and a half. So I mean, it's just a variety that likes sunshine and likes a bit of ripeness to it. And you've got to have that ripeness there, because otherwise it comes out a bit too skinny, to be honest with you. And I think that's one of the problems that most winemakers do with Mataro, is they either pick it too early or too late. Where And
with that, you mentioned the Shiraz.
I like it in the middle, so you get ripe flavours and you get the
Yeah. With the you mentioned that the Shiraz saw some old American oak. What's your oak regime on the Mataro?
It's all French. So
all French. And new or seasonal?
No, all old. So it's a very much an old school, sort of like traditional Barossa style.
Because it's certainly not an overt oak treatment. Like it's very subtle and integrated. It doesn't stick you in the face in any way, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think new American oak and Mataro would be like Clash of the Titans.
Oh, it would be horrible.
Clashes with a lot of things.
It would just be like the American oak would dominate. Yeah, it would taste like a 90s Coonawarra Cabernet. Like when they just boosted it with the new American oak, and it just tasted like oak and didn't taste like anything else.
Yeah.
Sorry, people. But
well, we haven't got a starter from Coonawarra yet, but we just finalised our first Trans-Tasman wine. So we'll have Kumeu River, Mick Brajkovic on the show.
Oh, nice.
On the show, because we've got a show now.
Yeah, we've got a show.
Look at you guys.
We've got seasons and we've got a show.
That's you all important.
Yeah. We got food, wine, and controversy.
Exactly. And little home viewers that pop in like you, Trav. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I've got nothing else to do. So.
That's right.
Well,
Well, we'd
that
love
time
to
of the
have you
year,
back.
Trav.
Yeah, well, it's actually nice to be at 5 o'clock, you know, obviously with the shutdown, and basically I'm a bit of a hermit anyway. It's actually nice to have a drink with someone at
Isn't it?
5:30. But so yeah.
Chat for a
I'm
while.
better drinking by myself anyway. So
Yeah. It's very civilized.
very much so.
Very
And
civilized.
we're having a drink with food.
Yes.
Some of
Yes,
us are.
you are. Yes.
Yes.
Mine's on the stove. So
Mine's yet to be made. So
yeah, those balls look amazing, by the way, Jane. I must get the recipe from you.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's so many things I could answer, but
I'm holding back.
I did think that was
I'm holding back
risky,
as well.
Trev.
I don't know who else is watching this. So.
but yes, always been. It's kind of like now that I've got a meat sponsor, it's very cool because I get the best meat in town and it's free.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I don't know why that sounds a little grubby, but it does.
That's it.
I think it's the glint in your eye, Jane. That's why.
Oh, never had a sponsor in my career. Now I've got a meat sponsor. I love it. Hey, speaking of which, Trav, thanks a million for bringing this one out.
Thank you for thinking of me. You
Hey,
as I said, I'm so glad. So,
also, should we tell people how they can get some if they're interested?
Yeah.
oh yes, that's
So,
right.
This is
this
the plug part. But I know, given this beautiful description of the wine and how much we're all enjoying it, people are going to be so gel. And am I right in saying it's $40?
Yeah, so just jump on my website,
Yeah.
Trav Firth. There's an order form there that now works, which is great.
Hey!
Yeah, please.
And
buy
it's
some
not,
from me.
they're not
There's
going to be
stuff
able
out
to
there.
find it anywhere else, are they? Like, it's not anywhere else available, it's just come through you.
Not really. There's the odd restaurant, the odd bottle shop.
Greenock Pub.
Greenock Pub, of course.
Pub, there you go, nice plug.
But-
Yeah.
Got to support the locals. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean it's not. I mean I want to be, and basically I'm a mail order based business.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, I only do 10 tons. I want customers. I want to be able to talk to my customers, meet my customers, know
Good
my
on you.
customers.
I love that
Yeah.
philosophy.
Yeah, well, it makes things easier. I mean, I've got no interest in being the next Penfolds, I can tell you.
Oh, come on with the controversy.
Well, hey, we're definitely inviting you back.
Definitely.
Please.
We like that. But please, everyone, go out there and support our beautiful local people. And, Travis is making some beautiful wines, not just this wine, and we will see if we can twist his arm to come on again. But absolutely, $40 for this wine is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, ladies. God bless you. Even though I'm an absolute atheist, but anyway.
More controversy.
That's it. Watch out. You wanna? It's all here. It's all here.
Drop the controversy bomb. Are you still wearing the Yoda t-shirt? That's good. I like that.
Maybe Yoda.
Lightning bolt.
Lightning
Lightning bolt.
And for those who are coming up for next week's session, is our sneaky little collaboration with Chris Ringland and Nick Stock, which we're really excited about, Carignan, 2008. And if you want a bottle of that, just jump on Chris Ringland's website and you can get $60 delivered to your door. Get it in before tomorrow, and then you'll get it before the tasting on Wednesday, hopefully for almost everyone. Maybe Perth might be a bit shonky. But it'd be great to taste through with some people and tell us what you think about that wine, because it's really interesting too.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there for sure.
Good.
So,
All
well,
right.
Chris is one of my mentors, so I better
You better,
actually.
you better support him.
Be there.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. I'm
No
sorry
Thanks, Trav.
you
No
couldn't
problem.
see me.
Everyone, have a great night. Drink more wine. Drink better. Drink Australian.
There you go. See you later,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.